Good evening. Legal experts and former government officials have lodged a petition asking the Supreme Court to declare as unconstitutional last year's transfer of 125 million pesos to the Office of the Vice President as a confidential fund. They also urged the High Court to order OVP to return the money to the Treasury Department. The petitioners argue that the decision of the Department of Budget and Management allowing the release of the 125 million pesos to serve as a confidential fund of OVP was, quote, a clear usurpation of the exclusive power of Congress. According to petitioners, the transfer of funds from the contingent fund of the Office of the President to, quote, an inexistent confidential fund of the OVP to avoid fiscal and audit scrutiny is clearly unconstitutional. The petitioners reason that taxpayers' contributions must be allocated, appropriated, spent, and accounted for based on the strict accountability scrutiny afforded by the Constitution. The petitioners include Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, former Finance Undersecretary Maria Shelo Magno, former Commission on Election Commissioner Augusto Lagman, Attorney Ibarra Gutierrez, who served as spokesperson of former Vice President Leni Robredo, and 7 others. Meanwhile, Vice President Sara Duterte says she hopes the Supreme Court's wisdom will lay to rest the discussion surrounding the controversial budget transfer in 2022.
Malugod po naming tinatanggap ang pagkakataong talakayin ang legalidad ng paglilipat ng pondo. Umaasa kami na ang dunong ng Korte Suprema ay magiging daan upang tuluyang matapos ang usapin na ito.
Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva says the Senate may restore some or the entire 1.23 billion pesos earlier earmarked as confidential funds of specific government agencies. According to Villanueva, if the amount of 1.23 billion pesos would be restored, it would be itemized in the Senate version of the proposed 2024 national budget. He says the consensus was reached during an all-senators caucus held on Monday. But Villanueva clarifies that the decision to restore the 1.23 billion pesos entirely or partially will still be subject to discussions. In October, the House of Representatives decided to strip 5 civilian government agencies of their proposed confidential funds for 2024, amounting to 1.23 billion pesos. The offices whose secret funds were either removed or realigned by this lower chamber are the Office of the Vice President, Department of Education, Department of Information and Communications Technology, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Foreign Affairs. Starting Wednesday, the Senate will hold morning sessions to deliberate on the proposed 2024 national budget. The Philippine Coast Guard is preparing for the possibility of receiving a higher budget allocation for 2024 in terms of protecting the West Philippine Sea, as the House of Representatives allocated a part of the slashed confidential funds to the agency. At the hearing of the House Special Committee on the West Philippine Sea, Rizal 2nd District Representative Emigdio Tanhuatco III asked agencies if the House's decision to realign 1.23 billion pesos of the confidential funds to offices securing the West Philippine Sea had any effect already. While PCG spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela explains that the effect cannot be felt as the proposed budget has yet to be enacted, he agrees with Tanhuatco when the lawmaker asked if PCG had been preparing its wish list.
But in line with this, the Philippine Coast Guard is preparing your, let's say, wish list or your additional requests in line with that realignment or reprioritization.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir. If you're asking if we have already anticipated the positive impact of our increase in our with our fiscal budget, I definitely believe, sir, that it has a tremendous impact to the Philippine Coast Guard in performing our mandates, not just in the West Philippine Sea, but in other parts of the country, sir.
In October, the House ultimately decided to completely remove the secret fund request for 2024 of 5 civilian government agencies and reallocate it to agencies involved in protecting the West Philippine Sea, including PCG. For his part, Defense Undersecretary Ignacio Madriaga says any additional funding can be used by Department of Defense establishments towards ensuring the integrity of Philippine territories.
Of course, sir, any addition to our resources or allocation would be a welcome development for us. And you can be sure, sir, that these additional resources would be put into good use in defending our sovereignty, sovereign right, and our jurisdiction and our national integrity, sir.
The National Bureau of Investigation has arrested alleged cult Socorro Bayanihan Services Inc. leader J. Renz Kilario or Senor Aguila. Kilario was arrested along with 12 other SBSI officials after the Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs Chair Senator Bato de la Rosa ordered a turnover of their custody to the Bureau following a hearing on Tuesday. During the Senate inquiry into the alleged cult's abuses, Justice Undersecretary Nicolas Felix T. says the Department of Justice is set to request for a change in venue for the preliminary investigation on SBSI from Surigao to Manila. Kilario and the others are facing 21 criminal charges for qualified trafficking in persons, facilitation of child marriage, solemnization of child marriage, and child abuse. According to T, these charges are only just the beginning as the raps are limited to the initial allegations made in Surigao.
This is not the beginning. The 21 charges were only limited to the initial allegations that were made in Surigao, as well as those additional allegations that were brought about by the previous hearing. So clearly, there are other incidents that we can look into, such as the children who died in childbirth, as well as the abuse of the senior citizen who testified earlier.
Senator Risa Hontiveros says over 200 children have allegedly died at Sitio Kapihan in Surigao del Norte, the enclave where the alleged cult Socorro Bayanihan Services Inc. is situated. Hontiveros makes the pronouncement during a Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs hearing on SBSI, where she claimed informants had told her staff that at least 200 children died in the enclave.
In fact, if our informants are to be believed, higit 200 ang namamatay na mga bata from the ages of newborn to 4 years old. If this is true, why so many dead babies? Why are we allowing children to die?
During the hearing, one of the deceased children's father, a certain Randolph Balbarino, narrates how his baby died within the enclave in 2020. Balbarino explains that his wife gave birth in a function hall in SBSI, which also served as its delivery area and hospital. The delivery was a breech birth or a possession wherein the baby's feet come out first instead of the head. Instead of being sent to the nearest hospital for professional help, Balbarino said the pair were barred from leaving the enclave, forcing his wife to deliver the baby with the assistance of unregistered midwives.
Yung mga kamadrona doon, sinabihan ko na ilabas ko ang anak ko kasi parang yung buhay niya, agaw buhay na yung bata.
Oh.
Tapos sabi ng mga kamadrona na pinagpabawal kasi ni Senyor Aguila, wala tayong magawa.
President Bongbong Marcos is set to visit the Indo-Pacific Command Headquarters in Hawaii during his visit to the United States this November. Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Charles Jose says the president has been invited there, adding that a security briefing on the West Philippine Sea situation is likely. Asked about the significance of the visit, Jose says it adds a layer to the cooperation being established with like-minded states in order to promote a rules-based order. According to its website, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is one of 6 geographic unified combatant commands of the United States Armed Forces. It maintains the presence of U.S. military in the Indian Ocean and nearby portions of the Pacific. Marcos is headed to the U.S. for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation in San Francisco, California. He will also visit Los Angeles and Hawaii to meet with business leaders in the Filipino community. The APEC is a regional economic forum of 21 countries, including the U.S. and the Philippines. Here's the latest roundup of today's top stories. Philippine inflation rate slows down to 4.9% in October. Supreme Court asked to declare as unconstitutional the Office of the Vice President's 125 million peso secret fund in 2022. And National Bureau of Investigation arrests alleged cult Socorro Bayanihan Services Inc. leader J. Renz Kilario or Senyor Aguila. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.